Imagine you find strange metal scattered across a lonely desert ranch. Not a spaceship, not a monster, just torn foil, rubber strips, sticks, and tape. But the real answer is far stranger, because sometimes the most powerful mystery is not created by what falls from the sky, but by what people are told not to ask about. In July of 1947, near Roswell, New Mexico, a rancher named Mac Brazel found wreckage on the Foster Ranch after a storm. It looked odd. It looked messy. It looked important enough to report. And very quickly, the story escaped the desert. A local military base announced that it had recovered a flying disc. Then the story changed. The object became a weather balloon. The newspaper excitement faded. The official explanation got smaller, cleaner, and easier to forget. But your brain does not forget a correction when the first version is more exciting, does it? That is the first strange detail. Roswell did not begin as a perfect alien story. It began as confusion. One announcement, one reversal, one pile of debris that different people described in different ways. To understand why that mattered, you have to land inside 1947, not today. The world had just survived World War II. The atomic bomb was real. The Cold War was beginning. Secret aircraft, radar tests, rockets, and high-altitude balloons were no longer science fiction. They were government projects with budgets, laboratories, and locked doors. That same summer, Americans were already staring at the sky. Pilot Kenneth Arnold reported seeing strange objects near Mount Rainier in June 1947. Newspapers popularized the phrase flying saucers. Suddenly, the sky felt different. A strange flash was no longer just a strange flash. It could be a sign, so when Roswell happened, the culture was already primed. Not because people were foolish, because people were human. Psychologist Elizabeth Loftus spent decades studying how memory can change after an event. Her research showed that the way a question is asked, the words people hear later, and the stories repeated around them can reshape what they believe they remember. Memory is not a video file. It is more like a drawing you redraw each time. So what happens when an event begins with the words flying disc, then gets buried under the words weather balloon, then returns years later surrounded by interviews, documentaries, and rumors? The drawing changes. The official story says the wreckage was connected to Project Mogul, a secret military program using high-altitude balloon arrays to detect sound waves from possible Soviet nuclear tests. That detail matters because it explains two things at once. The debris could look ordinary. The secrecy around it could be real. That is where Roswell becomes more interesting than a simple yes or no alien question. If someone saw balloon material, radar reflectors, foil, tape, and strange symbols, they might not understand it. If officials could not explain the real program, they might offer a safer explanation. If the public sensed that something was being hidden, they would be right about secrecy, but may be wrong about what the secrecy protected. Is that less mysterious, or is it more disturbing? Atmospheric scientist Charles B. Moore, who worked on high-altitude balloon projects around that time, later argued that the debris matched equipment seen in balloon trains and radar targets. To him, Roswell looked like a misidentified secret military balloon. Not alien metal, not a crashed saucer, a hidden program leaving ordinary pieces in an extraordinary moment. But ordinary pieces can still become legendary when trust collapses. Astronomer J. Allen Hynek learned this from the inside. He served as a scientific consultant to the U.S. Air Force's UFO investigations, including Project Blue Book. Early on, he was skeptical and often supported conventional explanations. Later, after years of cases and frustrated witnesses, he argued that some reports deserved more serious scientific attention. That shift gave UFO culture something powerful. A scientist who did not simply laugh it away. Hynek did not prove Roswell was alien, but he showed that ridicule can be a lazy answer. When people feel dismissed, they often grip the mystery even tighter. And Roswell had decades of tightening ahead. For years, it was not the global symbol it is now. Then, in the late 1970s and 1980s, witnesses, researchers, books, and television specials revived the case. The story grew. Bodies appeared in retellings, autopsies appeared, hangars appeared, secret transfers appeared. Every new version added emotional weight. But here is the counterintuitive twist. The most viral part of Roswell may not be aliens. It may be the shape of a cover-up. Your brain is built to notice gaps. A missing explanation feels like a hole. A reversed statement feels like a warning sign. A classified file feels like a locked door. And once your brain sees a locked door, it starts imagining the room behind it. Psychologist Carl Jung wrote about flying saucers as a modern myth during the 1950s. He was not simply asking whether objects were physically real. He was asking why the image mattered so much to the human mind. A disk in the sky became a symbol, a circle, a visitor, a threat, a rescue fantasy, a mirror. That is what Roswell became, a mirror. Not just for one ranch in New Mexico, but for the feeling that powerful institutions know more than you do, speak less than they should, and sometimes expect you to accept the smaller answer without asking why the answer changed. That feeling did not disappear. It moved online. Today, you see a blurry video, a leaked clip, a declassified page, or a government hearing, and the same ancient machine turns on in your head. You look for the missing piece. You search the comments. You zoom in. You compare dates. You ask why one sentence was blacked out. The tools changed. The instinct did not. Roswell survives because it gives your suspicion a perfect little stage. A desert, a storm, a rancher, a military press release, a correction, a file marked secret, a government program that really was hidden. And above it all, the possibility that the first explanation was either the biggest mistake or the only honest sentence. But maybe the missed detail is not a body. Maybe it is not a metal fragment. Maybe it is not a hangar door opening in the dark. Maybe the missed detail is that Roswell does not need aliens to reveal something strange about you. It shows how quickly your mind turns confusion into story. It shows how secrecy can make a normal object feel supernatural. It shows how distrust can become stronger than evidence, especially when the first version of a story is more exciting than the correction. That does not mean every witness lied. It does not mean every question is stupid. It means mystery is not only found in the sky. Sometimes mystery is built in the space between an event, an explanation, and the human need for the explanation to feel complete. So the next time you see strange footage online or a headline that says the truth has finally been revealed, your first instinct may be to choose a side, real or fake, cover-up or nonsense, balloon or spacecraft. But Roswell asks a quieter question. What happens when the truth is hidden long enough for imagination to become part of the evidence? And suddenly, you are back on that lonely desert ranch